All right, class. So what I'm doing is for week one, because I want to set a tone in week one, and I'll give you 1,000 chances until you understand what I'm trying to get at. So please be patient. I'm trying my best to convey what you need to do. So the best thing I can do is to show you. So let me do that. All right, so I am going to share with you my screen. And at this point, I'm going to share all the information I have. So bear with me for a second. I'm trying to get what I need out. And so I decided I wanted to do a report on shoe sizes of boys versus girls in middle school. And we know one of the facts that we do know in this case, since I decided to, since I teach middle school, it's a convenience sample. This is very easy for me to get this data. And I literally would have my students either use a shoe measuring device, which they sell at the shoe store, or you can borrow one if you know somebody. Or I could just gather the data, which I did. And so I'm just going to give you an example. This is just raw data, boys and girls, boys versus girls, because I want to compare their shoe sizes and have a conversation of that. So that's my report. So let me do two things. The first thing I'm going to do is let's do a Word doc. So you understand how I'm going to do this Word doc. And so this is a sample report that we're going to create. So I'm just going to leave that here to the side for a moment. Actually, I minimize that. And okay, so again, this is my raw data. What I want to do is talk about the descriptive statistics about the data. And so I did separate the data male and female, which you don't have to do. If you have, a set of data, you could just use one large sample. But for the sake of the example, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do the data comparison of boys' shoes versus girls' shoes. Or let's do this. For the sake of the example, let's pretend I have one big data set. So I'm going to toss this here. I'm going to copy this. And here's the boys' data. And I'm going to pretend I just have one big data set because that's what most of you have anyway. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to copy the data. And I am also assuming that you already have data analysis toolpack. If you don't, I will at the end of the video show you how to get that. So I'm going to go to data analysis. And I'm going to go over to descriptive statistics. That is what this particular Excel is focusing on. So I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to grab all of my data once again. I don't have any rows or any labels, so I'm not going to collect that. If I were using this, for example, I might use that. I can give you an example of that. Let me do that. So let's pretend that this is the data set I'm going to focus on right here. Notice that has a label. It says boy shoe size. So when I go to data analysis and I select descriptive statistics, hit OK. I'm going to collect this, including the label. And in that case, I am going to hit label in columns. Because it does provide in D2, you notice I have boy shoe size as a label. Now, what I want are the summary statistics, and I would like the confidence that's also possible. And over here, I want my input for my data. Let's say hypothetically, I want to throw it in here. So all I have to do is select the area. We're going to go with 95% confidence because that's like the typical. And I'm going to hit OK. And there you go. There's everything you need. This is very important. The other element that I think might be interesting to me, I don't care about the percentages per se, since this is a measured piece of data, maybe I would want something like a box and whisker plot. This is part of your reading assignment. I would assume you can do a box and whisker plot. So I'm going to go over here to histogram and select the box and whisker. Now, before you do that, I do ask you, select only the data. Now you're going to select the data, go to insert, then go to box and whisker plot. And it looks like this. So if you notice, I don't see the data labels. I don't see the data labels, but I do see some of the data, or at least the graph itself. So what I want to do is hit that plus, and then I'm going to come over here and go to data labels. And now you can see the 5-number summary. So there's my chart. And I'm going to call this simply box and whisker. So this is boy, shoe size, 5-number summary. If this is just for me to show you what I'm asking you to do. Now I'm just going to focus on the boys' shoe size. I'm not even going to bother with the girls. Let's say hypothetically I'm, looking to purchase shoes for children in my classroom that are of a particular style or quality. Okay. Now, once you're in the box and whisker and you have the box and whisker for the boys' shoe size, and you have the summary data, now I'm going to write my report. This is where you are all needing to pay attention, because I'm asking simply for you to come over here, and I'm going to push this to the side so I can use both. We want 12-point font and New Times Roman. So it's right now Calibri. I don't like Calibri. We're going to go 12-point font, and there you go. So I'm going to begin with a summary explanation of what my report. I'm not going to call this summary explanation. I'm telling you what I want. Summary explanation of what the report contains or is about. So in my case is, given our uniform requirements, the students, actually more particularly since I focused on males, the male students are required to wear a specific type of shoe in order to understand the needs of the male population and information required to order shoes for the students. Data was gathered, including the size of each student and below in the report we can discuss the current needs of this population. Okay, so this is just a generic example of what the introduction, think of it like an introduction. Instead of calling a summary explanation of the report contains, this could also be reviewed as an introductory paragraph. Okay, so Pardon any typos. I'm just trying to convey the message quickly as I can anyway. So an introductory paragraph. So what I'm going to now start with is below you will see the summary data based on gathered information. All right, so what we want to do here is we want to take a picture of this. So in my case, I'm just going to take it and I'm going to do a copy. I just need a copy of one size. So control copy. Here's a chart. So you are in essence saying, look, this is what I needed. This is my data. So now we're going to discuss the data. And you want to label the data, by the way. This is maybe call it table 1. And we can refer to the table as we discuss this. And now you're going to talk about, so in the data, we see that the typical or mean sample size or mean sample is, and then now you talk about the fact that this is 22.775, and this is obviously inches a foot, with a median value of, oh, that would be of, the median is 22.85, which means that 50% of the data is above that and 50% of the data is below that. So you might want to mention that. With a mode size of 22.4, that just simply is telling me that I could expect a lot more students or male students to be showing a size of 22.4. These are referred to as measures of center or central tendencies. So you can also mention that as a title. The measures of central tendency are as follows. And then you would talk about the mean, the median, the mode, because you're also showing the reader that that's what you're discussing. You might want to now mention the measures of dispersion. Now, obviously, I'm just doing this very quickly, and I could be much more detailed about this. I'm not going to do that because I'm trying to save you time, but as you watch this as well. You can start with the standard deviation. The standard deviation is 0.190941. And you can also measure, in this case, talk about, I'm sorry, that's a standard error. The standard deviation in our case is actually 0.76. It says 763. And I'm going to leave it at that. It's repeating, basically. That's what it seems. And then talk about the variance. Well, the variance, which we would use if we were doing higher level technology, which we're not, but just mention the variance. It won't hurt you. It's also measures center tendency. You would also want to mention the range. And so talk about that. And then when you're done with this, then talk about Well, what does this mean to you in terms of the 5-number summary, which is the box and whisker plot? In this case, you are going to talk about the actual graph. And so once again, your report will not be this sparse. And the idea is that you will write this in a cohesive manner. So I'm just sort of talking to you as we do this. Now, the 5-number summary, you know, in this case, you're going to include the minimum, the maximum. You're going to talk about the Q1, quartile 1. You're going to talk about quartile 2, which, by the way, is the median. And I already sort of talked about that. And lastly, the quartile 3. And then what you're going to do with that is now, eventually, after you talk about that, you can talk about the implication of what that means to you. And now we're going to include the graph. So we're going to take a picture of this graph, and we're going to throw that graph in here. And you're going to talk about, as you see in the graph. And then what you're going to do there after that, as you see in the graph, we can see the range, which ranges from 21.6 to 24.1. And, you know, continue chatting about it. And lastly, give me a conclusion. So this is very sparse, like I said. My goal is not to replicate this, but you can understand that when I'm looking at this, I want to see the chart. I want to see why you're telling me this. What is important to me? Why are you not ordering certain sizes, or why are you stuck within certain sizes? And the data is telling me that. And you're going to discuss that. And then you're going to support it with the graph. This is like a support piece. And in your conclusion, you're going to literally restate everything very shortly in 1 or 2 sentences. So not 1 or 2 sentences, but restate the findings in summary. Okay? And that should be like 1 paragraph. So when I look at this graph, I'm looking at the introductory paragraph. That's 1 paragraph. This other paragraph or statement, at least thought process, should be, you know, what is the descriptive stats? And so in this paragraph, you're going to describe the data you find, and its meaning to you. Now, this is not literature, so we're not looking for anything other than the raw data. So you literally it's a very dry writing, if that helps you at all. Very dry, very matter of fact. You could even then talk about the skewness. And when you talk about the skewness, you might want to mention again this 5-number summary, because that 5-number summary looks pretty even to me. It looks like a normal distribution. You might want to mention that, which also relates back to skewness and kurtosis. Okay, so yes, this might be some information that you are seeing for the first time, and you have to have read about it or heard about it within Alex or within some of the summary specific examples I gave you. So that is the gist of what you're doing, and you're welcome to try to re-express this. This is a very easy report. You can use any data you wish. I chose shoe size because I figured that was easy enough. If you want to be as simple as copying me on the data set, that's fine. I don't care. That is fine with me. So you're welcome to revisit this, please, and try to get the best grade you can, because I will regrade it, no problem, no penalties. And so please understand that you are trying to prove to the reader what your data set is speaking to them. you're trying to explain the obvious. It seems obvious to you because it's your data. You know what it means. The reader doesn't. So when I grade this, I have to think in terms of that. And so that's basically what I'm looking for. It's not anything new of what I've stated. Very similar to the video. So if you take a moment, just take a moment if you have to revisit this. I'd appreciate it because all of the continuing reports will require the similar mindset. Different topics, but the similar mindset. Okay? All right. I hope this helps you. I really do. And let me know if you have any issues.